It started as a simple plan that neither of them wanted to overthink. Just dinner after work, nothing fancy, nothing serious. But from the moment Emma stepped out of her apartment and felt the cool evening air on her skin, she knew the night already felt different. She checked her phone, saw Alex's message saying he was already there, and joking that he picked the table with the worst view just to make her laugh. And she smiled in that quiet way people do when they don't want to admit they're excited. The restaurant was warm and softly lit, the kind of place where conversations feel closer and time moves slower, and when she walked in and saw him stand up a little too fast, knocking his chair back, she knew he was nervous too. That realization made her relax, because it meant this wasn't just another casual meeting for him either. They talked about normal things at first, work stories, annoying coworkers, funny memories from childhood, but slowly the conversation began to shift into something deeper without either of them pushing it. Alex admitted he almost canceled the date because he was tired of pretending he didn't care about outcomes anymore. Tired of acting like everything was casual when he wanted something real. Emma listened, tracing the edge of her glass with her finger, feeling that mix of comfort and tension that only happens when honesty enters the room. She told him about her fear of choosing the wrong person again, about how being independent had become her shield, not because she didn't want love, but because she didn't want disappointment to own her. There was no drama in her voice, just truth, and Alex didn't interrupt, didn't rush to reassure her. He just stayed with her words, letting them land. As the night went on, the space between them felt smaller, not because they moved closer physically, but because the walls they usually kept up were quietly lowering. Their knees touched under the table once, accidentally, and neither of them moved away. The touch was light, almost innocent, but it sent a clear message, that awareness of each other that made every second feel charged. They laughed more freely now, teased each other softly, and when the waiter asked if they wanted dessert, Alex looked at Emma and said, "Only if you promise not to judge me for ordering something ridiculous," and she agreed, knowing she would do the same. Sharing dessert felt strangely intimate, forks crossing, glances held a second too long, smiles that lingered after jokes ended. When they finally stepped back outside, the city felt quieter than before, like it was giving them space. They walked slowly, not ready to end the night, talking about nothing and everything at the same time. At one point, Emma stopped and looked at him, noticing how different he felt from people she had dated before. Not louder, not smoother, but more present. Alex felt it too, that pull to lean in, not just for a kiss but to understand her better. When he finally kissed her, it wasn't rushed or demanding, it was gentle, exploratory, full of intention rather than hunger, and Emma responded in the same way, letting the moment breathe instead of turning it into something more than it needed to be. They stood there for a while afterward, foreheads touching, laughing quietly at how awkward and perfect it felt at the same time. There was attraction, yes, and desire sitting just beneath the surface, but there was also respect, a shared understanding that not every spark needs to turn into fire immediately. Sometimes the slow burn is what makes something last. When they finally said goodbye, neither of them promised anything big. No dramatic words, no expectations spoken out loud. Just a mutual feeling that this night mattered, that it was the beginning of something worth exploring, whatever form it might take. As Emma walked home, she didn't replay the kiss over and over like she used to. Instead, she thought about the conversation, the honesty, the way she felt seen without being exposed. Alex, on his walk back, realized he wasn't wondering what would happen next week or next month. He was simply grateful for how real the night had been. And in that quiet satisfaction, both of them understood something important. A romantic date isn't defined by how far it goes, but by how deeply it connects, and sometimes the most powerful intimacy is the kind that leaves you wanting to know the person, not just touch them. The days after the date passed more slowly than usual, not because anything dramatic happened, but because both Emma and Alex carried the memory of that evening with them in quiet ways. Emma caught herself smiling at random moments, in the grocery store, on the bus, while brushing her teeth before bed. And each time she tried to analyze why, she stopped herself. She didn't want to turn something that felt natural into a problem to solve. Alex, on the other hand, felt a calm focus he hadn't felt in a long time. He didn't rush to text constantly or play games. He sent one message the next evening, simple and honest, saying he enjoyed the night and would like to see her again. When Emma replied a few minutes later with the same warmth, it felt like a steady continuation, not a restart. Their second meeting didn't try to recreate the magic of the first. They met for a walk instead of dinner, jackets zipped against the cool air, hands brushing occasionally as they walked side by side. The conversation picked up easily, as if it had only been paused, not ended. They spoke about routines, habits, small things that usually come out much later, how Emma liked her mornings quiet and slow, how Alex worked better at night with music playing softly in the background. These details felt important not because they were impressive but because they were real. With each shared preference and difference, they were learning how their lives might fit together without forcing it. As weeks went by, their connection deepened in subtle ways. They began cooking together, learning each other's rhythms in the kitchen, when to step in, when to step back, how to laugh when something went wrong instead of assigning blame. There was attraction still present, still growing, but it never felt rushed. When they finally crossed that line into physical intimacy, it felt like a continuation of trust rather than a sudden leap. It wasn't about proving anything or filling a void. It was about closeness, about being chosen and choosing back without pressure. Afterward, they lay quietly, talking about random things, and Emma realized she didn't feel the usual urge to pull away or protect herself. Alex noticed he wasn't afraid of getting attached. The balance surprised them both. Of course, reality eventually tested them. Emma had moments where her past fears resurfaced, moments where silence felt heavier than it should have, where she wondered if she was opening herself too much. Alex faced his own doubts, questioning whether he was ready to adjust his life for someone else again. Instead of avoiding these feelings, they talked about them, not in dramatic confrontations, but in calm, sometimes uncomfortable conversations that ended with understanding instead of distance. They learned that trust isn't about never feeling afraid. It's about choosing honesty when fear appears. One evening, sitting together on the couch after a long day, Emma rested her head on Alex's shoulder and said quietly that this felt different, safer, and scarier at the same time. Alex kissed her forehead and agreed, admitting that he didn't want to lose this by pretending he didn't care. In that moment, they both understood that what they were building wasn't perfect or guaranteed, but it was intentional. It was two people choosing presence over performance, connection over control. They didn't label their relationship with big words right away. They simply kept showing up, learning each other's edges, respecting each other's pace. And in that steady unfolding, they found something rare. Not the kind of love that burns fast and disappears, but the kind that grows quietly, strong enough to hold desire, fear, laughter, and silence all at once.